I, Bernice Gashegu, Registrar General, swear by Almighty God that the evidence that I shall give before this Parliamentary Committee on Lands and Natural Resources shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Madam Registrar General, you now have the floor to give us such information as you consider will help us in the investigations that we are undertaking, that of course pertain to the work of the Ministry of Water and Irrigation. You have the floor.
Because companies are continually and consistently filing returns, and it takes us a while to file the returns in the files, we could not confirm that all the returns are in all the files. However, if this information is important, we can counter-check, because we had a time limit. I was given the summons, I think, on Thursday, just to confirm and to satisfy you that there are no outstanding returns. But these are as the returns in every file and in our database. I think they're accurate, but sometimes a company may have filed returns yesterday and they're not yet in the file. If the returns were filed yesterday and they only affect the year 2010, perhaps it would be helpful to us to know the period which you are investigating, and then we would satisfy ourselves that all the returns in respect of that period are in the files. But it's unlikely that we will find any major changes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I am averse to missing files and records, particularly now that we have scanned all our records. And at my level, I consider it a disciplinary matter where a file is missing. And because we have now scanned all our files, I only learned that a response was made to Parliament saying the files were not available after I received your summons, Mr. Chairman, and it's regrettable.
Well, we are glad you mentioned 1 and 2.
When one is applying for registration of a company, could it be a limited company or a business company, a business name? Identification. How are we able to tell that Ruben Degwa is actually the Degwa we are talking about, and not that one who applied for this business company or the owner of this company? It's very crucial that I mean, while the Kenyans are applying for registration of a company, you usually insist that you have to get an identification, and for foreigners, a passport number. How come that when you are giving us this report, you have not given the identification of these directors?
There is no requirement to produce identification, either ID or passport. The registrar could request it as an additional request. But as you know, Mr. Chairman, Kenyans are demanding that they want registration in the shortest time possible. And they feel that the Companies Act already demands for too many details. As you're aware, Mr. Chairman, there's a new companies bill that is coming up to simplify the CAP 486. So because in the forms and in the regulations, we are not required to demand for IDs and identification or passports. We do not demand for those. We could create a rule created just as a registry and not from the requirements of the law that we require IDs, but so far we do not request for IDs. We're still talking to the Kenya Law Reform Commission. Either it should be expressly provided in the law, or the registrar should have a window to be able to come up with rules and regulations. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Honorable
Banis, would you want it to be on record that when Kenyans or any other person who wants to apply for his company does not provide the Registrar General with identification, do you want that to be on record?
The system that has been in existence does not, it just requires your full name, address, and particulars. And as you know, Mr. Chairman, most of these companies are lodged by lawyers or certified public secretaries. The applicants do not appear before us because under the Companies Act, it is an advocate that presents for registration a limited liability company. So the people who bring these documents are advocates and members of the Institute of Certified Public Secretaries, and we do not request them for IDs.
In your experience as a registrar of companies, how many Fatuma Mohammeds have you registered?
Mr. Chairman, I think the member has raised a critical question. And indeed, without the ID number, we cannot establish which Fatuma Mohammed this is. However, in the case of limited liability companies, we can go back to the advocate or the certified public secretary who lodged the documents, because they are required to keep a duplicate of the file. And in more recent cases, when we have experienced difficulties of tracing directors or shareholders when there are investigations, we are working with the Institute of Certified Public Secretaries to ensure that those who lodge documents with us have full information and can be compelled to disclose that information. But I agree with you that with regard to business names, where we do not have their IDs, it is a problem.
Suppose tomorrow they disowned these companies. Of what document do we have to connect the corruption matters of these companies with the directors of these companies?
We do base investigations on the signatures, and even where policemen are investigating, we check the signatures and the addresses of the parties. But the practice has never been to require them, and the law does not provide for them to give us their IDs. I do concur with the member that it's very important and it's very critical, and as I've said, we hope and we will work towards putting it in the new companies bill, especially because of corruption and those manner of crimes that are very current and is especially now. Yes.